was probably mixed with dehydration from like
That's the problem.
not being there, but I
Right.
couldn't leave. I stayed in their place when I was there, and I couldn't leave their apartment.
Right here is good?
Yeah, that's good right there.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just say just bring it even closer to you if you can.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah, let me see if I can adjust it.
probably this, huh? I'll let you do it.
Yeah, gotcha. Want it a little higher?
Yeah.
So, bring it over.
I like the greenery with it.
I know. It's like
Greenery really
between
sells
two
it.
ferns, you know?
That I would love
You'd
to
be
be on that podcast.
Yes.
That would. This is great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you gotta start somewhere, right? You gotta,
It just looks so fun.
Where were you at when you got hungover in Aspen? Do you remember?
Yes,
Give you the full
we
tour.
went to. It was an underground place with pool tables.
Oh, Eric's probably.
Eric's. Sounds
That'll
right.
do it.
Yeah.
That town is hilarious.
It's hilarious.
People show up and just like lock the gates behind them,
Yeah.
and they're like, "It's fucking on."
Yeah. Oh God, such a fun group. I miss it out there. Yeah. I'd go back.
Skiing's so good.
Yeah. Do you ski or board?
I mostly ski now.
Nice.
So I like to do a lot of backcountry uphill stuff. Like the uphill is just love that, dude.
That's
I'm
really,
addicted.
really hard to do on snowboarding.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. You into it?
I am going to buy a split board, but it's still hard. Like you have to go with. I'm not the person that's going to take people,
Right.
But I have a few friends that,
Yeah.
I would feel comfortable them
Right.
leading me.
Yeah. Totally. You gotta have a good friend.
All right, guys.
Hey.
So, you look good. You sound good. You can
Great.
start whenever you're ready.
Okay. You recording?
Yeah, recording.
Okay. How do people normally look, Wolf? Like, do they ever look at the camera? Or you just, I always look at my guests, but
Yeah.
I'm always curious about that.
If you have something like you just want to relate to the audience in particular, then you can look at the camera. But for the most part, just look at your person.
Is it video as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smile big. Okay, so I know it looks like that we're on the set of, what is it, Between Two Ferns?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
We're not, though.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Ben, what do you remember about the day you were diagnosed with cancer?
Wow. All right.
We're starting there.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. It was a journey. So I knew something was wrong for a few weeks. So I was in Israel on my birthright trip, and I was checking out of an Airbnb, literally couldn't breathe, and was with all of my luggage, and it started raining, and I was like, I think I have to go check myself into the hospital. So I called a cab, put all my stuff in, and I was like, hey, can you take me to the nearest hospital? And he was like trying to make small talk, being like, so are you going to see someone? Is everything okay? And I was like, I can't talk right now. And I was admitted for I think like 11 days. And then they told me, hey, like you have to make a decision whether or not like you want to get treated here or go home. And I was like, get treated for what? So it was 11 days of knowing like something was wrong, but no idea it was cancer. Flew back, have a lot of people in my family that are doctors. So sent our scans tests to a bunch of them, and they're like, you should go to Memorial Sloan Kettering. And so that's when I went. I was there for like 10 days. And I think we finally found out probably like 4 or 5 weeks later. Yeah. And they were like, this is what you have.
That's insane.
Yeah.
How old
Fun,
are you?
right? 24.
Oh my God. And you're in Israel?
Yeah.
By yourself or with family? Or?
I was by myself. I stayed after the trip for a bit to do work stuff. And I ended up having a few friends and friends of friends coming out of the woodworks and like spending time with me. But it was alone. And then parents obviously wanted to fly out. And I was like, can you please not? I'm fine.
Like, yeah, what's going through your head? You think you're okay?
I was just in a lot of pain. And I knew I had a blood clot in my lung. I had a pulmonary embolism, which is so painful. For sure more painful than cancer. And I had to give myself, they were between two things. You could either, one, do this shot that you have to give yourself in the side of your stomach 3 times a day, or a tiny little pill that you take once a day by mouth, and they're like, you know, "Sorry, you have to do the shot." Turns out I got back to New York, got another blood clot on the flight home, and they were like, "You were on the wrong thing, you should have been taking the pill." So it was like 6 weeks of me I wasn't I'm not a doctor, like, I wasn't good at it, it was black and blue all over, and it's like giving yourself a shot in your stomach 3 times a day, and it's the wrong medicine. So, yeah, I haven't thought about that in a bit. That wasn't fun.
Dude, oh my gosh. And how many
Yeah.
people are going through that every year? You know, like an insane amount.
Oh, of the wrong people getting the wrong test and treatment to diagnose. It's genuinely unbelievable.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
The most recent stat is we're at a point still where in the United States, we have roughly 50% of people are getting treated in accordance with evidence-based medicine for cancer.
Wait,
Five
say that
zero.
again.
50% of the population is not getting treated in accordance with evidence-based medicine.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Why are doctors just
It's just the guidelines
educated
that
on
are
the recent
called
things?
NCCN guidelines. They're constantly changing. It's difficult. And then there's a lot of practices in the community where, yes, the academic medical centers have teams and physicians that can spend all of their time staying up to date and have access to all of the drugs and patient population, et cetera. But it's really difficult and expensive. And yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
How
It's a-
long was that journey? You're 24, you get diagnosed once you get back from Israel. And then how long is that battle and hellhole?
So it was 4 rounds of chemo. Not very fun.
You're in New York the whole time for that?
In New York the whole time. I Yeah, 4 rounds of chemo, and you have breaks in between because they kill your white blood cells, you need time to recover, then they go in again. So, it's like this emotional roller coaster of a journey with the chemo part. Then we had to go right into chemo because I had blood clots in both my lungs, and it was stage 3A, so it had spread throughout my whole body. It was testicular cancer, and so it had spread up to my neck. And so they were like, "We have to we don't have time to do surgeries first. We have to just go in and start doing chemo." So, did the chemo first, then did one surgery, then it was my sister's graduation from college, and so I wanted to go to that, so flew on a plane to that, then came back, did the last surgery. So all in, it was like 5-ish months, and then I still had the blood clots because those are pesky little things that take some time to go away, so that was another few months. I remember I was so stupid, I was so young, where I was like, "What, like, when am I gonna be able to drink again?" Like, it's still like, there's some things where you're, like, so close where you're, like, thinking about life and death situations, and then there's sometimes where you're like, I just want a glass of whiskey," and I can't do that on blood thinners, so
And now you went for a 5-mile run this morning.
yeah, exactly.
Did you drink last night?
Uh, I did. I've been doing sober weeks until Friday.
That's great. That's a big deal in New York.
It is really, really, really
Are your
difficult.
friends judging you or are they applauding you for it?
It really depends on who it is and whether it's a work setting or a friend setting, and it's very in New York still, it is changing where I think there's more and more options and people are becoming sober, uh, but it always requires a few extra questions or an explanation, which is nuts.
It does. I
Yeah.
know. I hate that. I
Yeah.
think about that all the time
Yeah.
because I find myself wanting to drink a lot less these days because I just don't enjoy it that much, right? And when I do it, I think a lot of times it's just because it's like the societal norm.
Yes.
What's your go-to like get out of it tactic, especially in like a work setting?
Mhm. I sometimes have been saying I have stuff I have to get done later that night, or I'm taking a few days off, or I don't know. I try to make it very lightweight, and so it's not a whole thing.
Yeah,
And we'll see how long it lasts.
I hate that we even have to like talk about that.
Yeah, me too.
Hey, if you're listening to this, don't drink if you don't want it.
Yeah, peer pressure is still such a real thing as adults.
Yeah,
It's kind of unbelievable.
yeah, it's so true.
So, where are you in your drinking journey now?
I only do it well, like living in Colorado has
Yes.
been super helpful because nobody really drinks there.
Yeah.
And my rule is like when I'm home in Colorado, I don't drink.
Oh, whoa! At all?
Not really. No, it's like very rare for me to drink in Boulder.
Wow.
And that's kind of the norm there.
Yeah.
Right. But when you're in a big city, it's like the norm is the opposite of that, right? So I just
Yes.
kind of I go in waves,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, when I'm home, no desire, no need, and then in work settings, starting to do it less. And just like I think as I get older and mature, I
Mhm.
care less about what if somebody's going to judge me, right?
Mm.
And I almost want to set the tone for other people, like, hey, don't ever feel pressure drinking around me. Like,
Mhm.
if I'm hanging out with you,
Yes.
it's because I like you, right? Like, Ben,
Mhm.
I think you're an interesting, cool person. We don't have to go drink to have fun together.
Mm.
Like, you're cool and fun on your own without it.
Thank you. And this is recorded, right? So
Yeah,
that's
you got that?
that's binding.
That could be a segment for you.
Just send that out.
Yeah.
So what about a first date? What do you do that's not a drinking related? Let's go to a bar and get a drink.
So spot on. I don't like a first date. Like if I have to sit down at a table and focus on somebody for an hour and a half, I
Uh-huh.
have a really hard time with that.
Mm.
Like I'd much rather be doing something dynamic, like just walking through the streets,
Yes.
or like going to a park or going to a museum or an art gallery
Yeah.
or a fun event,
Mhm.
because I just find that you can kind of get to know somebody and
Totally.
learn more about them in a dynamic environment rather than if I have to like sit across from you,
Yes.
have a drink. Like to me,
Yes.
that just feels too predictable and standard.
Yes.
What
Some
about
people
you?
some people are really open to it and some are not. So there was because I did the marathon last year and
The New York City
New York
Marathon?
City Marathon. And so I was
Nice.
taking some time off drinking because you want to give your body every shot to do it. And I remember before a few first dates, I was saying, "Hey, I'm just want to give you a heads up. I'm not drinking for a few weeks. Would love to do this." And then there were multiple girls that responded saying, "Yeah, if you just let me know when you're back and drinking, and we'll reschedule." I was like, "What?"
What?
I was like, "You are probably not the person I'm gonna be date." Like, how is
No.
that? How is your initial reaction? That sounds good. Totally respect that, but just, let me know when that changes. As if I was going through like if yeah.
They saved your
Yeah.
time at least.
Totally, totally, right? Like better to know
Like you don't need
that
to be with that person.
better to know that early.
You're Ben Freeberg. You got big goals, man. You
Yeah.
don't got time for that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, so you go through that journey
Of
of, no,
going on
the
sober first
pre-dating, the
dates.
pre-dating, all right? So you go through and I'm sure you learned a lot through that
Mhm,
the battle with cancer, right?
mhm,
How does that then lead to what you're doing now?
mhm. So, one, in terms of the emotional side, I think that was a very interesting change because there were certain times during the journey where when you're in a hospital and you can't leave for 10, 12 days at a time, it it's nuts. It really is, like, you go outside and you're just like, "Oh my god." Like, just literally being outside in fresh air is the most amazing thing, and you hear people complain about, like, a tough day at work or, like, missing the subway or whatever, and you're just like, "Are you what's the cursing policy?" It doesn't we don't I don't need to curse. But are you kidding me? Like, it's just so unbelievable because there's so many things that could be so much worse, and you're like when you're in the hospital, you're also spending all of your time with other people who, like, all they wanna do is just no one wants to be there, and everyone wants to just be outside and hang out and relaxing, and so it's really interesting because for a while after, I felt that genuinely. I was genuinely happy being outside in a park, sitting down with friends, alone, whatever, and then slowly things start annoying you again. And so, like, there's still things and over the past few years, it's, like, started happening more where I try to remember and, like, put myself in that situation of, like, my legs work, like, like, tried walking home from chemo a few times, and I just couldn't make it. It was, like, 10 blocks, and, like, like, kneeled over, and I couldn't walk 10 blocks walking, and now I'm, like, going on real runs, and I, like, try to put myself in that mental situation, and it's really hard to. So mentally, I think I'm not all the way back to where I was before, cancer, but it's definitely it sucks because I want to put myself in that mindset of everything's amazing and perfect, but it's hard. On the professional side, which is I think the leading question, it led me to start what I'm doing now. So I launched a venture fund to invest in startups that are making cancer care better, more efficient, more affordable, more accessible. So there's a ton of things like we were talking about how there's just not enough people literally, if I got diagnosed with what I did and was treated in potentially a small town community oncology clinic, I might not be here. Like, that is nuts. In 20 whatever it was, 2018. Yeah, literally thinking about years. I that blew my mind. And so I'm trying to find companies to give capital to and help them grow, scale, develop so that people can afford the best cancer care they can and also have access to all of that data and information.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we are.
I
Yeah.
love that. Do you know how many people have or are diagnosed with cancer on a yearly basis? Do you have any sort of estimate?
So the really interesting number is 18 million. There are 18 million cancer survivors now in the US. And so I think new cancer diagnoses each year, I think it's like 1.2 million.
Mhm.
Maybe we could fact check that, but I think it's about 1.2 plus.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot that are unreported or misdiagnosed or people that, you know, it could go both ways.
Mhm. Yep. I love that one of the first things you said is bringing like consistency to care, right? If you're in a
Yes.
rural town,
Yes.
you could be not here
Yeah.
sitting in the studio right now,
Isn't that
right?
crazy?
That's so nuts. And it shows that because you're a smart guy, because you have doctors in your family, you were able to be in control of your health journey. You were able to be the CEO of it in a way
Mhm.
where a lot of people don't have those, resources or means or knowledge to do that.
And it's also like I had good health insurance. I had a job that was still fortunate enough to pay me during it. Like people who are working different jobs where if they don't show up to work, they don't get paid. Like you can't take a day off to go get chemo, and people are actually skipping chemotherapy appointments. The other crazy stat is it's about 42% of patients go bankrupt within 2 years of a cancer diagnosis. That's that's crazy. Like there's just so many pieces of it, and it's why we're not the fund isn't focused on finding the next chemotherapy drug or the next medical device or therapeutic. It's saying, "Hey, we have all this amazing stuff today. Let's just like start by getting this all in the hands of the right people, providers."
Hmm. How did you get the money for the venture fund?
It is fundraising for anything is unbelievable. Like I just it's my least favorite part of it. I did this to meet with, help cancer startups, but you have to get the money to do it. So there's quite a few cancer centers that have backed me, fortunately. So City of Hope was our first big investor. They're unbelievable. They actually think about comprehensive cancer care in the right way, where they're actually implementing innovative solutions and helping expand care access. New York Cancer and Blood Specialists here in New York. Then there's a lot of other individuals who have just CEOs of companies I've worked with, backed in the past, partners from old funds, people who like the story. And it's a lot of people who have been touched by cancer themselves because for people that have had it or had a loved one go through it, it's a place where you money is really important, but also throwing more money at the problem doesn't help. It's cancer. And so there are these people who are very well off who I'm chatting with where they're like, we had all of the money resources in the world and there were so many things that were so broken about it. And so those are the other folks that have fortunately backed us.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can empathize with the having to ask people for things.
Yeah.
I run sales teams.
Yeah.
So we are in a market development space with AI and healthcare. So
Mhm.
we're used to hearing no a lot. It starts at no. What percentage of people do you think said no when you were raising capital?
All of them. I'm actually working on this bit where I was saying early on, I would ask people for advice, and they're like, everyone is going to say no. And so I shared that with a friend, and I'm trying to use it in like other contexts. And we were at a bar, and he was nervous to go talk to this really cute girl. And I said, the worst thing she could say is no. And he was like, you know what? You're right. And so he goes up to the girl and he says hi. And she looked
Wait,
him
I'm
up.
nervous right now.
Yeah,
What's going to
she
happen?
looked him up and down and said, "Please, no." Which which is so much worse than no in so many ways, and he came back and he was like, that was the worst thing she could have said. Please, no is it's just another level. And so I have gotten different versions of that raising where people have their minds made up. Like I'll give them the pitch and I'll say like, "Hey, like we are investing into data startups that are improving cancer care and delivery. Everything we're investing into is being commercialized in the care setting today, and it's going to help patients and providers today. And also, we're investing into companies that can do true value-based care and improve patient lives where I think we're going to generate a financial return." And then they'll say like, "I'm sorry, no, we're like not investing in drugs." I'm like, "No, same. Like, yes, that's exactly what I said." And they're like, "No, that sounds great. It's just we're not in a place where we want to invest in the next drug." I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you. We're also not investing in the drug." So those no's are tough because I obviously believe so strongly in what we're doing that I think we're going to make an incredible impact and it's going to be successful. And there's just a lot of people that just to me aren't listening, which are the worst type of no's. And then there's a lot of no's where they're like, "Oh, it's a first time," and they don't know whether or not to bucket me into a nonprofit or a fund or cancer. And so it's just a lot of education and it goes in waves, right? Like sometimes you have a few people that everyone says yes, and then they tell their friends. And then there's sometimes where just a lot of people saying no, thank you. And it's been a tough market. And so we've been really fortunate in a really tough market. But yeah.
What's your dream investment
For me to invest or for someone to invest in me?
for you to invest in?
Um, so we have 16 different themes we're investing into within cancer care. So we've already made 4 investments. All of them are my 4 dream ones. I would say the big thing that we haven't found yet is I want to invest in a company that is truly helping on the health equity side. So nutrition, transportation, behavioral health support, like all financial assistance. Like there's so many different parts of cancer that are non-clinical. I just use air quotes on a podcast, but they're not clinical, but they have, we know, data-driven support to improve cancer care. And I really do think that that deserves a specialized cancer-focused approach. And we've seen different versions of it, but we haven't found like the one where I'm like, that this is going to improve health equity for cancer care. That would be a dream one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, you're speaking to the heart of every C-suite executive in healthcare right now. Like, everyone's really hot on health equity.
Yeah, and it's just really, really, really hard to do, and it's really hard to get paid for, and it's really hard to
That's the problem.
engage them.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen some amazing my prior role I was at United Healthcare's venture arm, Optum Ventures, and we got to know a lot of these like incredible executives. And one of them found that it was actually cheaper for a lot of these high emergency department users to buy them housing. So they opened up this like apartment complex, gave everyone free housing, and it was cheaper because once you give people a roof over your head and give someone like a driver to take them to and from their appointments, it's amazing what they could do with their time, money, like engagement with healthcare. And so I'm trying to figure out different ways to do that as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. It's amazing what people are working on.
Yeah.
People are
It's
so much smarter than me. It's
Yeah.
like, it's so cool.
And you're
Yeah.
good at surrounding yourself with them,
Isn't
as a good leader does.
isn't that nice? It's like really, it like really is humbling. Like there are these people that are spending time talking to me. I'm like, wow,
Mhm.
thank you.
Right. One thing, since we have you, I would love to hear from you and we're just gonna exploit you and take full advantage of you today, Ben,
Yes.
is if so it's a serious question,
Yeah,
right?
I can't wait to hear it.
So for somebody who's trying to support a family member, a loved one who's going through cancer,
Mhm.
how can they be best supportive? Give them some guidance real quick so they limit their mistakes and optimize their support.
I wrote a post about this. It's on our oncology venture Substack. Check it out.
Plug, plug, plug.
It is. I don't make any money off it, so it's not a really good plug.
It's a good
But
cause.
my whole goal of this is just to make cancer easier to talk about, and people have no idea what to do. So the few things is one, don't ask questions. It's just it was amazing how many people who all it's all good nature, right? It's all people with your best interest in heart that are trying to help you. And so one I would say, don't ask them like, "Hey, how are you feeling?" or "What's going on today?" or "What can I do?" It gives them another task which they don't want, they don't need. They're probably not feeling well. Like they are either on a chemotherapy regimen or radiation. Like it's stuff that is messing with your body in a way that you can never experience if you're not actively going through it. So, one, just like give positive affirmation text or just show up, right? So, like, don't say, like, hey, can I come over and bring you something? Like, deliver them their favorite food or say, like, hey, I'm going to make dinner for you tonight. Or if you have a caregiver for the cancer patient, give them a night off because the caregivers are overburdened and it's really difficult. So I would say just show up and do and just be there. Like the best thing that so many people did is we had like parties in Memorial Sloan Kettering when I was going through chemo, and there were multiple weeks where I was saying I was there for a while, and I had like my friends and family were amazing, and everyone came, and I had like 15, 20 people in like the hospital room, like, playing, like, Settlers of Catan or Secret Hitler, if you ever played that game, which was a nuts game to play, and, yeah, like, I remember there was one moment where, um, my friend got really, really intense, and have you ever played Secret Hitler?
Mm.
It's a hilarious game. It's, like, kinda like Mafia, and so you have to figure out who Hitler is, and you have to all band together, and it's a lot of lying and deceit and teamwork and whatever, and this one guy gets up on his chair so mad saying, "I am not Hitler," and this is at, like, 2 a.m., and, like, the cancer ward of Memorial Sloan Kettering, and, like, the nurses come by, and they're like, "Love this. Like, I'm so glad you guys are doing this, and it's helpful, but, like, if we could just not yell, 'I'm not Hitler,' at the top of your lungs at 1 a.m., that'd be really nice." But, like, doing stuff like that, like, just, like, bring over a game and show up, like, ask them when their next chemotherapy appointment is, and just go be there with them, and I think that's the biggest thing, and then I would say I would say that's it. Like, you don't have to do too much. Just, like, don't make them feel bad and feel like they have to comfort you. Like, there were so many people that started crying when I told them, and then I have to comfort them. Like, don't make them comfort you. Like, they're dealing with enough. They have to comfort themselves. Like, just go be there. And also, like, don't talk down to them. Like, the worst was when people would, like, change their voice, be like, "Oh, like, Ben, like, how are you doing?" And, like, "Can you just" I'm a person still. Like, I didn't have hair. Like, you're already beat down. You're like I was neutropenic, which means, you don't have enough, like, white blood cells to fight infections. Like, just the least you could do is, like, talk to me with some respect as if I'm a person. And so that's how I would probably handle it. But it's I mean, everyone and this is, like, the crazy part of that, like, starting this fund is every day it's multiple phone calls a day where people are telling me about their someone that just got diagnosed or it's themselves. And I spend a lot of time with cancer patients too, still, like people going through it, people that just survived. There's a group called Immigrant Angels, which is amazing. It's peer-to-peer cancer support. So they match you to someone that just went through it with the same exact diagnosis. And it doesn't mean anything. The other advice is like, don't tell them, excuse me, it's all going to be okay. Like, you don't know that, right? But if you have someone that just went through it with your same exact thing and they're like, "Yeah, this is gonna suck. Week 3 is terrible on this. This drug is gonna knock you out. You're gonna feel nauseous." But I wanna hear that from them. So,
I don't think I've ever heard that advice anywhere.
great,
So thank you for using
great,
your
and that
experience.
sucks. Yeah,
It does, man.
yeah, yeah.
But it's why what you're doing is so valuable and
I
important.
appreciate that.
And you have this way of just presenting it in a very digestible manner.
Thank you.
Just you got away with words, man.
I appreciate it.
Which
This is a
leads
great podcast.
permission to shine, man. Come on.
Yeah. And I love the name.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Why do you like it?
One, I think it qualifies guests in a way where I think you're looking for specific people, and I like want to meet the other people that you've had on your show and will have on your show because this is going to be big. So I'm glad I got it early, and I think it's unique. I think it like makes people think something, and also I think it gives them an opportunity. Like I think there's a lot of people hopefully listening or that will listen that are like, yeah, like let me go like share and tell my story. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So thank you for that.
What was there a runner up? Was there like a second choice you were thinking about
For what? The
for
guest?
your no.
I was like, no, Ben, you're it, man.
I would have shut down the podcast if you didn't come today for your podcast name.
No, Permission to Shine was it. And it
That's
actually came
awesome.
from a friend. I have to give him credit, Connor. We were brainstorming at this Thai restaurant in Boulder. And
Oh,
we're like, what? And I don't know if you've seen this Coach Carter, the movie,
yeah.
but there's like the poem, Our Deepest Fear.
Do you have it memorized?
I don't yet. I need to, man. Marianne Wilson.
We'll edit it in post.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But it just talks about like when you diminish yourself to make somebody else feel good, right? When you don't shine to your fullest ability because you're worried about making somebody else feel insecure or how it's going to land
Mm,
with them, you just like lower the playing field for everybody.
mhm.
Right. But when you're your true authentic self and you're like, hey, this is who I am, I'm proud of all of these things, I'm not
Yeah.
going to diminish them in any sort of way, you just raise the playing field for everybody.
I love that attitude. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me
So,
about your stand up comedy life.
it's such a funny transition because I feel like a lot of really good comics are self-deprecating in a few different ways. I really enjoy it. So the dream goal of doing stand-up, this is like my retirement in like 50 plus years when I hopefully live that long. I want to travel the world educating people about cancer through stand-up comedy. Is I think it just would be such a fun way to spend time. So I'm a big will it into existence guy. Like I think if you spend enough time with the right people, telling them what you genuinely want, and also like being kind and nice and thoughtful, like not just asking, I think it happens. And so I started telling people that. And so lately I've been on this like little kick where I'll go to healthcare conferences or charity events or cancer galas or whatever it is, and I'll like do a panel or a talk on cancer innovation, and then I'll do a stand-up comedy set, like either that night or the night before, and it is so much fun because I started doing stand-up before cancer, but a lot of my favorite material is my cancer material, and so I like the way we ordered this conversation that people know I had cancer before I maybe make some jokes about it, but it's just been so much fun. Like, it's just there have been a few people that just I really do think needed to hear certain things and need to laugh about it because it's not funny. Like, it sucks, and it's people's whole world that gets turned upside down, and most people yes, there are a lot of people that get cancer after, like, smoking cigarettes and, like, a lot of things that they do to their body, which, like, you know, it it's no one's fault ever, but it sucks, and no one chooses to get it, and if we could find some parts of it to laugh and be like, "This is ridiculous," then hopefully we can help. Yeah,
Humor is like the best thing in the world.
I
It
think
just
so,
diffuses everything, right?
totally. Except for when it doesn't hit.
Then it's awkward.
Then it's awkward. I've had a few, especially in like, jokes are different here sitting across from you, but I've tried, like, making a few over Zoom, pitching people in rooms that, like, weren't ready or weren't expecting a joke, and some of them fell flat. Yeah, uh, so those are good, but
I've been to a lot of healthcare conferences
yeah.
in my time. Nobody is doing stand-up comedy at these
Yeah.
conferences.
Yeah.
So thank you.
It's so much fun, and then also, honestly, the best part there are so many best parts about it, but one of the best parts about it is you don't have to introduce yourself to anyone afterwards, and you also don't have to do, like, the silly small talk of, like, people trying to skirt around the, "Hey, what do you do?" But they actually just only wanna know what you do so that you could decide whether or not it's worth spending your time with the other person, and in my mind, the point of conferences is, like, you meet people that are interesting, smart, working, whatever, and then you'll get to the work stuff later, but build a relationship and rapport and have them like you and decide if you like someone else. And at these conferences now, the first thing when people come up to me is like, "Wait, I have this idea for a joke," or "Do you know this comedian?" Or like, "Tell me about your writing process," or they tell me about something creative they're doing. And you just like actually get to know them. They also, I really do think, talk in a different voice and it's like a more excited. And so you leave conferences where I don't know if I've learned about what all of them are up to professionally. And who knows if it'll ever be like helpful and pay off in whatever, but also like, it doesn't matter. And it's so much more fun. So this is like a newish thing. I've only started doing that the past 3, 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
When did you do your first stand-up session? Can you
Um,
remember it?
I do remember it was at Gotham Comedy Club. I've watched it. It was not good, and I thought it was great. I think there's a few things everyone in life should do. One of them is I think everyone should do a 5-minute stand-up set. I think it
That's
would
terrifying.
I think it would humble everyone. I think there are a lot of people who, in a positive way, are way funnier than they think they are and would get on stage and kill it for a 5-minute set, and it would completely change their confidence in life. I also think there are a lot of people that think they're way funnier than they are, and they would go on stage and be humbled, and it would also, like, bring them down. Also, it's just fun. Like, I really do think that even if you change the way you just approach everything for a few weeks, so, like, once I made the decision to start writing stand-up about cancer, it wasn't immediate. It was I know this wasn't your question, but it was a conversation with my oncologist where I was like, "Okay, what do I have to know and do to make sure that this chemotherapy works perfectly?" And so he started walking me through everything. He's like, "Okay, what you're gonna do," and said this with a straight face, "is you're gonna follow a pregnant woman diet." And I'm a 24-year-old man, and I was like, "If that's not funny," like, if that idea of, like, him telling me with a straight face, like, "You are gonna follow what's called a pregnant woman diet," and walks me through it, if I can't turn that into something, then, like, this is gonna be a really tough journey for me. And so I think there's just something about when people start writing their first stand-up set where you just, like, take notes on your phone. You're like, "Okay, this could be a bit," or like, "That was weird. Let's make this funny." And it's just, like, things that are confusing or frustrating or sad could be turned into something that could make people's day. And so that was my most fun part of my first bit where I spent, like, a month or 2 beforehand just writing down notes, and I was so happy those first few months because everything's funny. And I got hooked a little bit. I mean, I only do it once every, week, 2 weeks. It plays like a very fun, active side thing in my life. Sometimes I'll go like 2 months without getting on stage, but I very much enjoy doing it. Before we go on, do you have a thing like that you think the world would be a better place if everyone did?
Dang, that's a good question, Ben. My automatic thing, this is so dumb.
Yeah.
If every single person was hydrated in life, everyone would be so much happier and better. I
That
drink 2 gallons of water a day, and I never get sick. I
Whoa.
travel constantly.
I'll have a sip.
Drink your water, dude. What are you waiting for?
He put liquid IV in this beforehand.
Not an ad.
Oh, right. Yeah, we're not sponsored, right? Maybe this will turn into it.
So I would think getting
That's
hydrated,
such a good answer.
traveling,
Mm,
obviously,
yes.
right? Like
Yeah.
I went to South Africa the summer between my junior and college. Yeah, between junior and college or junior and senior year of college, I went to
Mhm.
South Africa. And before I went to Africa, I thought I was going to go work on Wall Street my
Mhm.
entire life.
Mhm.
After Africa, I realized that I needed to be in medical devices because I thought that was a really scalable way to impact the world and impact millions of people.
Yes.
And so just by going on one trip, like literally the entire trajectory of my life changed.
Wow. What is it about it for you?
The travel,
Yeah.
it's all comes down to perspective, which is my
Mm.
favorite thing to get in life is perspective.
Mhm.
Right. That's why I do the podcast.
Mhm.
Is I grew up in Iowa, right? And you get a
You grew up in
sliver.
Iowa?
I grew up in Iowa,
Yeah.
man. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Have you been?
No.
Oh, we gotta
Should I?
we gotta take you sometime.
Yeah.
There's 1 week that I say everyone should come to Iowa,
Okay.
and it's the last week of July. There's this
Just missed
annual
it.
bike we did. You can come next year. I'm giving you time to prepare,
I appreciate
Mr.
it.
Marathon Runner. Okay, it's a 7-day bicycle ride from the west side of Iowa to the east side of Iowa. How many miles do you think that is?
Oh God. Um 750.
Yeah, 500. It's 500
Oh,
miles. So
okay. That
shorter
wasn't
than you
bad.
thought. So 500 miles, 7 days. It's about 25 to 30,000 cyclists who are just having fun, eating pie, drinking Bush
Of course,
Light,
there's pie. Pie.
Amish pie.
What is that?
The best pie you've ever had in your life.
What's in an Amish pie?
You don't know like the Amish community?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know Iowa had Amish people.
Yes. Yeah. No electricity, like the whole thing. But they are insane bakers. You gotta
Wow.
come for this. Like I've ridden with like Lance Armstrong, like all these-
Lance Armstrong invested with me.
Did he really?
Yeah. Is he? I don't know if we're allowed to say that. Yeah, I'll check in with him before we post.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, got to ride with him and his wife.
Nice.
Run into them in Aspen a good amount too. So
Yeah, that was when I was there with our friend that put us in touch. He had me over at his house.
no
Yeah, it was
way.
really fun.
What was that like?
He made Lanceritas.
Yeah, special
Which is a
margaritas.
special margarita. He was an incredible host. He took me through like all of the like rooms in his house and like took me to like where he bikes in the garage. And it's like a Peloton. Like it's just so funny. Like one of the best in the world for, it's kind of crazy.
I think we fantasize these things in our head, right? We're like,
Totally.
oh, Lance Armstrong, he has this insane bike setup and blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, just go do the thing.
Yeah, totally. Show up.
I love that.
Yeah.
The Lancerita. That is
Yeah.
hilarious. That's super cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, you and Lance can come do Ragbri. It's called Ragbri.
Ragbri.
Yeah.
I love it. And where do people sleep?
Intense. In
Perfect.
random people's yards.
Great.
We just take over these towns of like 5,000 people.
I'm so excited.
Everyone loses cell service because you just like knock
Yeah.
out the service with that many people.
Wow.
Insane 7 days.
Wow.
We're on a team of like 40 people. So you can come join our team.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Fun. Okay.
So that's another thing I think everyone should do. 7-day bike ride through Iowa.
There's so much stuff to do. That's like people are in like sometimes like these ruts and they're like doing the same like that exists in so many different forms and fashions all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
So fun.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do you have any
Sold.
like special events that you want to do?
What are my things that I want to do? I want to go to every tennis Grand Slam. I would love to. I've never been to Australia. I would love to go to the Australian Open, but that's different. It's a different version of what I think we're thinking for this type of thing. Like I want to go to some state fairs. I want to go to like the New Mexico State Fair. I don't know why or what I heard about it, but I think that's like a very interesting thing. There's also my friend was just pitching me this like tuk-tuk journey in this random not random, that's a condescending word, but in a unique country that you just go for like weeks and you just have to like find your way around it and all you have is like two buddies and a tuk-tuk and that's it. Like you figure your way and like sometimes you'll have to push it and sometimes it'll work and you just have to figure out how to get there. I would love to do the Amazing Race. I think that would be fun. Also not the same thing I think of what you're sharing, but yeah, now you're inspiring me to go figure out some of this stuff.
I think you have plenty going on in your life, man.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, I thought you challenged me with that question. I love it. I'm like secretly sitting over here thinking about it because
Yeah.
it's such a good question.
Yeah.
Something that everybody should do.
Yes.
Have you heard of this book called The Greatest Salesman in the World?
No.
I heard about it. McConaughey was talking about it.
Okay.
And then Blake Mikowski, the founder of Tom's.
Cool.
So those are two people that I think just do interesting things in
Yeah.
life, right?
Yeah.
And
Episode 14 and 15.
yep, I think
Right?
so. Following you up, man. That's a nice follow-up, man. I would love
Sandwich
to get
between-
Blake. I think he's somebody that does some really cool things, right? The founder of Tom's.
Yes.
Is right. And he's got a cool story. And
Yes. And they're still they donate part of their proceeds and
yeah. And he's kind of like gone off the grid. Like
Cool.
he's
The grid's
gone.
overrated.
Yeah, man.
We sit with 12 microphones.
Yeah. Anyway, so they were talking about how this book changed their life. It's called The Greatest Salesman in the World. And so I'm in sales, so I'm like, oh, I gotta check this thing out.
Yeah.
So I order it and it gets here and it's this like 50-page tiny little book.
Oh,
And I'm like,
that's
I'm
an
gonna-
afternoon.
I'm gonna read through it in an afternoon.
Great.
Right? And then the first page is like, it's 10 scrolls, 10 individual scrolls or
Okay.
chapters, you could say. And it's like you will read scroll 1 3 times a day for 30 days until you go to scroll 2.
Did you do it that way?
Yes.
Whoa. And
Not an afternoon read, a 10-month read. Think about it, 10 scrolls,
yeah.
1 month each scroll because
Yeah.
it's ingraining the habit.
And what is it? What were some of your takeaways?
So that scroll 1
Yes.
is something that I think every single person, if they did,
Yes.
this world would be such a better place. If
Okay.
they read this scroll every morning when they woke up, don't read it 3 times a day. Read it once a day.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts with, I will greet this day with love in my heart
Ooh.
in all things, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody cuts me off, rather than my reaction being like, what the hell, what are you doing, right? What's wrong with you? It's like, hey, I'm going to choose to like extend love.
Mm.
Maybe it's your first time driving. Maybe
Yeah.
you're having a bad day. Maybe you're late to whatever, right? You're late to your wife's birth. You know what I mean?
Mm.
There's so many things that we don't know.
What time is it?
12:08.
She'll be fine.
Okay. What time do you have to leave?
I'm fine.
Okay.
I was making my wife is pregnant joke. I'm single.
Well, you do have something big today. So you had something.
Wait, this isn't getting released this afternoon,
no.
right?
Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, is she gonna be excited or not excited about
You
it?
should give her a shout out.
My sister is getting engaged in
Woo!
a few hours. Hopefully, if she says yes. Well,
if she doesn't say yes, do we cut this part out or do we keep it?
if she doesn't say yes, no, this is going in either way.
Okay, good.
Because it's amazing, I think, both ways. But congratulations, Alyssa and Sam.
Congratulations, Alyssa and Sam.
And welcome to the family. Yeah. So that's going to
beautiful.
happen in like 4 hours.
In Central Park.
In Central Park. Which I asked him about the significance. He's like, it's just really pretty there. But he hired a photographer. I'm helping with, I think, some parts of it. So it'll be exciting.
You don't know which parts yet?
It's in my phone. It's on. I have the text.
Dude, what do you think about living?
I'm time boxing things.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
So that's the second most important thing today behind the podcast, the engagement?
Of course.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
Okay, so greet every day with love.
I would
That was
greet
the
this
biggest one.
day with
That's
love in my
also
heart.
so interesting that that's a salesman book.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's like, right? It's
Yes.
like this,
Wow.
yeah, kind of psychs you out.
Does it help? Like, do you really like have there been a few times recently where
Literally, it has moved me. Like it totally evolved who I was as a person.
yes.
So like that's one. And then the next one is I will persist until I succeed. And it'll have like 2 pages of just like kind of scripture or it's not scripture, right? But just like examples of what you can do to persist and why it's so important.
So starting anything, business, like I'm sure starting a podcast, starting a company, starting a nonprofit, whatever it is genuinely an emotional roller coaster. And there are some days where you're like, this is so easy. This is the best idea in the world. Because obviously, like, if you're putting all of your time and effort into it, obviously you care so much about it and believe in it, or hopefully you do. And the advice I got when I was starting out is that if you focus literally just for long enough, like if you just spend enough time doing it, you are qualified and you're learning and you're doing it in the right intentional manner, it'll work. Like it just does. Like there was a stat on podcasts where how many I don't know any of the numbers off the top of my head, but let's call it like there were like 10,000 podcasts that have been uploaded to like Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever it is. It was something like 2% of them made it to episode 10. That's it. That's all you have to do. Like you just make it to episode 10. And then it's real. And it means you care enough about it and you weed out the people who are just, little, tourists in whatever journey. And I just think there's so much power to that. So I'm hoping that I'm now at the spot where it's been 9 months of me starting this, where I'm like starting to feel like, okay, it's no longer am I going to do this or is this happening? It's let's like really do this. And I think once you also go in with that attitude, everything changes around you, right? Because you don't need people as much because it's like, hey, if you want to be part of this amazing thing we have going on, that'd be great. We'd love to have you. Here's all the reasons why it makes sense. And also here's why it makes sense for you and for us. But if you don't, like, that's fine. And that's very difficult to exude that when you're starting. What was your original question?
No idea.
There's something about a microphone.
You have everything you need to succeed. Like there is 0% chance in my mind that this doesn't work for you.
Oh, me personally, thank you.
And like for the venture fund.
Yeah, I appreciate
and you have
that.
this like insane team.
Yeah, isn't that crazy that people want to work with me too?
Yeah, how did you convince them? You just like fooled them or what?
It's genuinely unbelievable. Like people have been, and also like so engaged and active. Like we have an advisory board of people who are just like, it's genuinely unbelievable that they're talking to me, let alone like bought into this. And they're like really doing it. And I think it's a little bit of a passion project for a lot of folks too. And there's some of that, like they've all seen different parts of it. But I also think they know how much it means to me and how much good I think we're going to hopefully do through this.
You're doing it.
Yeah, and I have to, you're so right. I have to change that.
There's no
mindset.
point in your journey where all of a sudden something clicks and now you're at that enlightened point.
Yes.
Like that's now.
Yes.
Right.
And I have to enjoy that part of it. Like I'm sure, like, do you feel this when you're starting the podcast? Like there's certain like frustrating pieces, but you're like, this is it. Like this is the build.
This is everything I've dreamed of doing. To me,
I love that.
like, you asked me, like, do I have a dream guest,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, sure, but, like, to be honest, man, like, you're it, right? Like, you're the
Huh.
profile of the
Yeah.
guest that I've craved of getting,
Yeah.
and so have the last 12,
Yeah.
man, right? You're special number
Yeah.
13,
Yeah.
and to me, you know, someday I hope this has 10 million listeners and growing,
Mhm.
and it won't be any more special at that point than it is today, recording
Mhm.
this episode with you on a
Mhm.
Saturday in New York City.
Yeah. Happy Saturday. Yeah, I love it.
So you're right, man. We have to
Yeah.
enjoy the moment
Yeah.
and quit always looking to to the future, to this moment where we think it's going
Yes.
to click, and all of a sudden, then we're going to find happiness and fulfillment.
Yes. Do you meditate?
I do.
What is that for you?
Right now, I'm using this app called Pause.
Okay.
My friend put me on it for the second time, and it's just this 30-day journey. You do this 10-minute in the morning guided meditation
Mhm.
and 10 minutes at night. And so it just kind of holds me accountable
Nice.
to doing that.
Nice.
And then I love yoga,
Ooh.
a lot of yoga.
Yeah. This could be a yoga studio.
Yeah, this place is pretty cool.
Yeah. Nice.
What do you think about living in New York City?
uh,
Speaking of meditation, because I find it really hard to meditate here.
I love it. So one, it's so funny. Cancer changed so many things. Before cancer, I genuinely didn't understand why people lived anywhere else. Like there was something, I don't know why, but I just was like, why would you ever want to live in another city that's not New York? And then I had the opportunity to I lived in Boston, I lived in Nashville for a bit, I lived in Colorado for a bit. I've been able to travel more and more. Just like everywhere's amazing. Like there's like so many amazing things to do in so many towns and cities around the world. But when I was deciding where I was gonna live when I was launching this, it's like, 1, I'm not gonna make money for a bit. So, let's go to the most expensive city in the United States to just double down on it. But there's something about being here where we were actually talking about this last night with, one of my colleagues and this other guy who was really impressed by, and we were saying, like, if I started this fund here versus a few other cities, I actually genuinely think I'm further along than I would be having started somewhere else because it's just like there's so many people working and hustling here that you just like bump elbows. Like the fact that like you're in New York this weekend and we got to do this here, like if I was living in another city, n- this is different than if you were to call me and say like, "Hey, can we record this on Zoom?" And so I think there's so much of that happens here professionally where if you want to like go work, hustle, build, it's really cool. To do that here plus the stand-up side, it's just so easy. Like, it was when I was in Boston, I was doing stand-up comedy shows in the backs of Chinese restaurants. I, like, did one outside Faneuil Hall. I did one, like, by the seaport where it just, like, you can't even hear from certain seats, and it's just here there's 6 clubs within 3 blocks of my apartment, and so professionally, stand-up wise, like, my family and friends, it's really cool here. It is silly expensive. Like you literally like it is true where people talk about like if you leave your apartment in New York City, you're spending $100. Like that's a thing. Like that totally is. Yeah, you could like find cheap, but it all adds up. Also, city biking in New York City is one of my favorite things to do in life. Um,
So underrated.
it's unbelievable. It's the best way to get around the city. It is fun. You're just always on a bike ride, and yeah, so
Do you do the e-bikes or the regular ones?
um, so now they have these new white electric city bikes, which is it's it should be illegal. Okay, this is if there's any government officials listening and watching, you have to do something about. I'm talking literally into the camera. You have to do something about the delivery guys going the wrong way in the bike lane with their motorcycle. So when you see the people that have like the gloves on over the thing, that's not for their hands being cold. That's because they literally are using a pedal and it's a motorcycle. And so they cover it because it would be illegal, but it should be illegal. And I think it is, but no cops are giving tickets for it. And so that's the only genuinely dangerous part about biking. I mean, there's a lot of dangerous parts, but the delivery guys going the wrong way with their literal motorcycles in the bike lane is just like the fact that not everyone is getting tickets all of the time and that they're like getting in trouble for it is incredibly, incredibly frustrating because there are people that are actually dying and getting seriously injured from that. And so I don't know how this sharing it out there will help, but like if everyone biked for just one day in the city and saw it, like I think that problem would be fixed in a second, but I think it's just like another world for a lot of people. But I love it. And I now wear a helmet all the time.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Way to
Yeah.
lead from the front.
Right. Thank you.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
What does success mean to you?
Oof. What's number 2? No, we could do this one first. I'm also gonna ask this back at you. Whew. Okay, so 1, the reason why I think I also started this fund is I think out of all of the things I could do with my life to make the biggest positive impact on humanity and generate the most exciting financial return, it's this fund. Like, I really do think that this is the perfect mix of my interest, skill set, doing good by doing well sort of opportunity. And so I think, like, literally, like, if we just do this in the right way, I'll be really happy. I also think success is genuine work life balance. Like, I really do think that it was tough for a few months of it, but now I think I'm getting much better where it's partially also like the freedom, like of being able to, if like one of your best friends is in town for an afternoon and it's a Wednesday afternoon, like I'll like do that work on Saturday or Sunday, or like maybe you just give yourself the afternoon off. Which is like, it's just so I haven't taken a vacation since I started, but I don't feel like I need it because I've been so energized and so excited by it. And I really like there's so much to do. And I think if I could continue to push that forward in the right way while also making time for I love playing tennis, I love playing basketball, I love running, I love doing stand up, I love spending time with my family and friends. If I could continue to do all of those, and I love traveling and snowboarding, I love a lot of things. If I could continue to do both of those forever, and I think I'm very fortunate where I've been able to do that at a young age, but I'm very much in the belief where like I'm never going to retire. But I also think that it sucks because there's a lot of people that like just like work their like crazy job. They go home, they watch Netflix, and they rinse and repeat for their like 2 weeks of vacation a year, and then they like wait for 65. And
Mhm.
if I could do that all now, which I've been good about for a while, except for my investment banking job, which was not good for my mental health, but
Usually isn't.
it usually isn't. But that's success. Yeah, to be creatively pushed and creating like both from a business and like a content and creative comedy writing side
Mhm.
and being able to do well, that'll be fun and
Mhm.
staying active. Okay, what about you?
Yeah. Well said. It's
Eh,
funny that you're
barely
turning
well said.
that's
I use a lot of words.
that's funny that you're turning this back on me. It starts with people. So
Mhm,
surrounding myself with like really kind, interesting, motivated people, which
mhm,
I feel like I have in my
mhm,
life. So I do feel successful in that
mhm,
way. Feel very blessed with the tribe
mhm,
that I'm a part of.
mhm,
And that'll always be most important to me. I
mhm,
think that's the biggest key to just a healthy life and longevity.
mhm,
I think a lot of studies show that. And then it would be my health.
mhm.
And I judge that by 2 things, which are
Yes.
kind of funny. 1, bowel movements.
Mm.
If you have
I'm
healthy
surprised that hasn't come up yet
if
today.
you right? 13 episodes, man, it's taken. If you have healthy bowel movements,
That's so
that's
interesting.
how you know, like, you're in sync.
Huh.
And bags under my eyes.
Wow.
Those are the 2 things, right?
Okay.
Because if I'm sleeping well, if I'm
Yeah.
getting my green juice, my smoothies, my workouts,
Mhm,
right? I'm not chronically stressed about work, which can happen at times. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Like, your body doesn't lie to you.
Huh.
That's my litmus test.
Cool.
And then the third thing is just greeting every day with love in my heart.
Yeah.
You know,
I read that
that's my
once. Yeah.
I'm gonna send you that book.
I please.
It's gonna take you 10 months, so
Yeah.
be careful what you sign up for here. But those are
That's
my 3
amazing.
things.
Wow. Do you feel that in Boulder? Do you feel like you have a lot of like motivated, not just like outdoors and seizing the day, but motivated career-wise there? Or does that matter?
No, that community that I was referring to is, everywhere. They're a
Mhm.
bit spread out. A lot of them are in Colorado, not necessarily in Boulder itself, but yeah, that tribe is kind of all over the
Yeah.
place
Are you
for
a
me.
caller? Like if you're like walking home, like do you just have like a bunch of friends and people you call?
Yeah,
And yeah,
yeah,
I see that for
on the
you.
phone quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, my last question
Yes.
is, what does humility mean to you?
Hmm. okay, I think a misconception of it. Well, I don't know if it's actually a misconception, but it's something I don't believe. I don't think it's shyness. Like, I don't think it's not feeling comfortable, but I think it's not doing things for people to be impressed or for other people's validation. Like, I not doing thing for other people's approval, I think is like humility. Like, I think being able to like share and talk about work that you genuinely at your core think is important and doing stuff that you think is fun and fascinating for yourself and for the people you're doing it for without how it comes across to others. Yeah, I think that's my answer. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
This all makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
What about I mean, that's obviously like that idea is what inspired you to start this
Yeah,
series. It's just people that you enjoy spending time with, you think are more on that side of the spectrum.
exactly. That's it.
Yeah. Cool. You bring it out of people too.
I try to,
Yeah.
man.
Like when you were doing the
Thank you.
fake yelling at a cab or person, whatever, that's, moving too slow or get out of the way. Like that, I can't picture your voice saying that in a non-sarcastic way. Like I can't picture you actually like yelling at someone to say, get the hell out of my way. Yeah.
That's good. I'm
Yeah.
glad you think that.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you, man.
Yeah.
I hope this conversation sheds light for people, who are going through cancer,
Mhm.
who want to help, bring consistency to care.
Yes.
What's the name of your venture fund?
Oncology Ventures.
Okay. So if somebody's interested and they have a
Yeah.
startup or they have funding and they want to get involved, what's the best
Yeah.
way to reach out to you?
Oncologyventures.com. We have all of our contact. It's literally not oncologyventures.com. It's oncology.ventures, which I thought was cleaner and better. So Oncology Ventures on LinkedIn, however else. And then I post all of my comedy stuff on Instagram, just Ben Freeberg.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then obviously a big takeaway of just make it illegal for delivery guys to go the wrong way on the street. It's killing people, actually. So yeah. I didn't think I was gonna bring that up at all. I don't know why. That's becoming my like podium I'm
You
standing
have to
on.
use your platform, You're a special person, man. Thank you for doing this.
Thanks for having me. Cool.
Oh, yes.
That was great. Cool.
Oh my gosh.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Done.
man. That was freaking fun.
That was really good. You're a really good interviewer.
You think so?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. You very much gave me space to talk and share that I normally do much quicker answers, so feel free to cut.
No, I mean we went long because I was just having fun.
How long are those normally?
30?
Oh my god. What were we at? An hour?
Yeah.